Today, we are going to welcome Erik Anderson, who is the owner and operator of Utah Pest and Lawn. 12 years after joining the industry as a door-to-door salesman, he launched Utah Pest and Lawn in 2023.
You do lawn, pest, WDOs. You're studying to become an ace. I mean, dude, it just sounds like you are just reaching for absolutely everything that you can do to just be at the top of the food chain.
If I can give anybody any bit of advice, it's network until you die. Like that is the best thing you can do for yourself.
And man, I got to hand it to you, Erik. I think that what you're doing is truly awesome. And I think that as you share out with inside of your circle, that is going to create a ripple effect that goes out. And the more people that put out that ripple effect, the better our industry becomes in general. And I think the better relationships and connections we all build with each other. Because like you said at the beginning, it's networking.
Welcome to the Bug Bucks Podcast, a podcast designed to turn you into a bug money millionaire. This episode is brought to you by Bug Bucks Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. I'm your host, Eric Bassett, and right next to me, as usual, we've got the one and only Jay Klaus. What's up, dude?
What's up, Eric, and my fellow Bug Bucksers?
You know, I'm not sure when this episode is going to drop, but this time of year, it doesn't matter, man. It is wild out there. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's right smack dab in the middle of the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy is that sometimes when it's real busy in the summer, at least I used to just get so busy that I just tuned everything else out.
Mm-hmm.
So I worry that, maybe people wouldn't tune in to the episodes when the summer gets crazy. But we get people all the time that are like, yeah, I was just listening to your episode between stops. And, that's awesome.
Yeah, dude. They're like, they've got the AirPods in,
Yep.
Treating houses, going out and slaying it, listen to Bug Bucks all day.
Yeah, it's cool. I just picture you guys out there sweeping the eaves, listen to Eric's sultry radio voice.
Like, yes, and this is how the P&L works.
Yeah, that's right.
They're
like, oh, P&Ls.
Like, oh, this is perfect. Yeah. So today we have an awesome guest. You guys are going to love him. But before we bring him on, just want to remind everybody listening, the best way to receive new episodes is by subscribing to our show on your preferred podcast platform like Apple, YouTube, Audible, or Spotify. If you love the show, please leave us a rating and a review. Make sure to check out our Facebook group, Bug Bucks Plus. That's BUGBUX Plus. We've got over 4,200 other pest control owners in that group waiting to connect with you and share their thoughts. It's also the best way for you to share your feedback on our show and have your questions highlighted and discussed here on the podcast. So make sure you find us on Facebook and join the group. All right, dude. Our guest today, I'm gonna read him or read his intro, which I love, dude. Today, we are going to welcome Erik Anderson, who is the owner and operator of Utah Pest and Lawn. Erik began his career selling pest control services in South Carolina. He expanded his career into being a technician while putting himself through college and also selling. He continued doing sales and tech work for a few summers and eventually graduated from BYU, Idaho with a degree in business management and then became the general manager of the pest control company he was working for at the time. 12 years after joining the industry as a door-to-door salesman, he launched Utah Pest and Lawn in 2023. He is fully licensed for structural pest control, ornamental and turf treatments, and wood-destroying organisms. Erik is currently pursuing his Associate Certified Entomologist, or ACE, certification.
My man.
And he is constantly going above and beyond to learn all that he can to best serve his clients. Erik, welcome to the show. What's up, man?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course, dude.
Okay, wait a minute. So I'm sitting here listening to Erik give Erik. Oh, it's going to get confusing.
Erik with a K.
Erik with a K. We'll go Erik with a K. So I'm sitting here listening to Erik with a C, reading off Erik with a K's rap sheet, and I'm sitting here thinking, dude, Erik Anderson sounds like seriously one of the most qualified.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most qualified guests that we've had on the show. I mean, you have experience in sales, you have experience in the service side, all this before you started your company, a business management degree. You do lawn, pest, WDOs, you're studying to become an ace. I mean, dude, it just sounds like you are just reaching for absolutely everything that you can do to just be at the top of the food chain. I think that's awesome. We're going to have a lot of questions about that. Yeah.
Speaking of questions, dude, I mean, how do you know, what brought you into the industry in the first place? How did you get snagged in? How did you get roped in?
Oh, well, I was a broke college student and I had some roommates that had just finished their first summer of door to door. Like, hey man, we made like 15K. Like, wow, stars in my eyes.
What are you going to do with all that money?
What are you going to do with all that money? Like, you can buy some textbooks. So I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Talked to the owner. He was a cool guy, and signed up immediately. And I think my first summer I made, I don't know, I finished in the top 5 in the company as far as first year reps. You know, I think at that time I was selling like 130, 140 accounts my first summer.
Yeah. Nice.
Average contract value was around like 485, 550, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And, you know, he invited me back for another year and I said, yeah. And I did that all through college to help, you know, pay for my tuition.
So how many years were you selling?
So I sold for 4 summers. So from 2011 to 2014. And then I met my wife. I had to elevate my game, I guess. I felt more responsibility to go from full commission to something a little more stable. So I joined the management side of things after getting my degree.
You know, I will say, and like, there's obviously a lot of door-to-door sales guys that like start their first year and bail. That's fair. But there's a lot of guys who start their first year, finish their first year, and then like never again, right? They like call it quits.
Yeah.
The difference between the sales guys who work for the single year versus like the multi-year guys is like night and day, dude.
Oh yeah.
It's a totally different caliber of sales guy.
Yeah.
So,
you know, that's that sales guy that's on your team. And after like 2 weeks, he's like, yeah, I prayed about it and God told me to go home and be a lifeguard. Right.
Sure, bro.
Sure.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
That's funny.
Just give me your accounts on the way out.
Just give me your accounts. Yeah. So, okay. So you actually got a degree in business management. Is this I know BYUI has like an entrepreneurial business management degree where it's kind of like a general entrepreneurial degree. Mm-hmm. Is that the degree that you pursued, or is it just like straight up business management?
So I did business management with an emphasis in marketing. At the time, I was looking at like digital marketing, but I don't know. I had an internship lined up, and the internship fell through, and I kind of panicked. You know, having like a pregnant wife as a college student, and I kind of fell back on who did I know and what did I know, and that's where I ended up going back to the company I'd worked for and getting on the management side of things, is doing an internship that led into a job as a general manager. And
that's rad.
From there, I learned a lot.
So do you feel like going back in to the company you worked before, becoming the general manager, was that better than the internship that you were expecting to go into? And were you able to use your degree in that role?
I really tried to use my degree as much as I could, whether it panned out that I could really utilize it or just, you know, toe the line and do what I need to do as a general manager to get the job done. You know, who knows at this point, but yeah, I mean, using my degree now is really beneficial. When I talk to some other PCOs, it's like, man, you're really thinking outside the box. Like, I'm just trying to, you know, use my marketing degree or what I know to like make connections and network when and where I can. And like, if I can give anybody any bit of advice, it's network until you die. Like, that is the best thing you can do for yourself.
So. 100%. And, you know, we've had a lot of guys on the show that started out in door to door, right? Mm-hmm. And eventually find their way into business ownership, as, you know, you would. What would you say was the first thing that you noticed? You know, you go from being door-to-door sales guy, being a little bit on the technician side of things. You know, you get formal education about business management. You come back in as a general manager. What thing did you look at and just go, wow, I had no idea that it was that way. What were some of those things that you noticed going into the management side of the business versus the sales side of the business?
I think definitely the fulfillment, making sure that your salesmen are trained properly to say the right things and not overpromise the world.
Mm.
That
Yeah, we can
was that
take
was
care of
probably
raccoons.
yeah, that was probably
You know,
the biggest anxiety inducer as a general manager was trying to fulfill the wishes of these salesmen that it was a bad sale maybe, and then or
Mhm.
they're running their mouths off at people on the doors and cops get called and I have to put out those fires as a GM. And
oh, dude.
yeah, that was rough. So seeing, holy cow, I didn't know it was this way, because my experience as a door-to-door sales guy was, when I leave the door, you're my best friend and you're going to know
Oh,
exactly what's
yeah.
happening. Like that's just my personality. And so I wasn't the guy who had the credit card number in 30 seconds. We had some of those guys on our team and they sold 400 accounts and they're awesome, and tip my hat to them. But my style is definitely, you're going to be my best friend and you're going to understand exactly what you just signed up for. Um, because I don't know, that's just my personality, whether you want to call it integrity or what. Like, I just wanted to make sure that my people were really taken care of by the technician, and that they had, hey, you're going to see some bugs still. That doesn't mean that, we're not going to take care of you, but it's like, hey, we're going to take care of and control your bugs. We're not eradicating every single bug in the world kind of expectation. So I don't know. That was
Well, it
kind of
sounds
one of
like you had
the
a,
eye openers.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I would say that you had a pretty high degree of integrity as a door-to-door sales guy.
Yeah, that's
You know,
just
that's,
you don't. I mean, you do see that, but
yeah,
I think that it's more rare than common to see people having that
yeah.
level of extreme ownership in the sales
Mhm.
process.
Well, and a lot of these door-to-door sales guys are young, right? They're 18, 19 years old. And so
Right.
it's not on their radar yet.
Mm-hmm.
They think, okay, like they work really hard, practice my pitch, close this way, close that way. Um, just if they can leave the door with a signed contract and a credit card number, then like they've done everything they need to. Even if
Right.
they had to stretch the truth a little bit, or whatever the situation is. And as you go through your time as a door-to-door sales guy, you realize through some of those years that, okay, it's about quality accounts and quality engagements and building a relationship, and you can
Right.
bump that for referrals and all these other things. Some door-to-door guys don't ever get to experience that.
Yeah.
And then a whole other level is when you get to the management side of the business and you get the phone calls. You
Yep.
get to hear about the phone calls. The technicians are like, dude, this freaking sales guy said this. Like, what do you want me to do about this? Right?
Yep.
Like, I'm not de-webbing this person's crawl space. I'm not doing it. Right. But yeah, I think it's got to be a pretty common thing on the
Yeah.
management side of the business.
Yeah.
Like you said, the fulfillment, right? That's huge.
Yes.
So we're going to take a quick moment to highlight one of the premier sponsors of the BugBucks Plus platform. If you're looking for a way to drive 5-star reviews, employee and customer engagement, and provide additional tips and bonus compensation for your team members, Applause is the platform for you. Applause makes it easy with their streamlined online platform and app. They give your management team clear and detailed reporting and provide competitive leaderboards that drive employee engagement. And these are just a few of the benefits that Applause delivers. To learn more about how Applause can take your company to the next level, visit applaushq.com. That's APPLAUSEHQ.com. And remember to ask about special discounts for BugBucks Plus Facebook members and BugBucks Plus subscribers. Now back to the BugBucks podcast. So, and
Yeah.
I think we kind of glazed over just a little bit. You went to BOUI, got the degree, was a general
Mhm.
manager, and then there was a little bit of time in there where I think you worked for your family. Is that right? Before starting your own
Yeah.
company?
Correct. Yeah. So for about 6 years, worked with my dad and brother. They're both certified financial planners. And so they worked, fee only fiduciary advisors. So they're legally bound and obligated to do what was in the best interest of their clients. And so it was really interesting to take that fast sales pitch approach, of, soft skill and mold it into this corporate job where you're dealing with really big portfolios, people's millions of dollars, and trying to help them navigate really tough conversations and, or just, potential customers or clients coming in and help them navigate really potentially tough conversations of what do they do with their estate when they die, you know? And
Mm.
so it's cool to see that side of the sales world. It's a little slower, a little bit more emotional hand holding. Like it's all going to be okay. Low pressure sale. Like, hey, here's what we have to offer you. Go home, think about it, talk about it, give us a call. And so I've kind of tried to take that knowledge of sales and blend that with my current company. Like, hey, I want to be the local bug guy. This is how I can help you. These are the tools that I have. Think about it. Let me know how I can best serve you and take care of you guys. And so I was really grateful for the time I spent there. Learned a lot of valuable skills about managing stock portfolios, doing back end bank transaction type things, ACHs. But my soul died in a cubicle, and I needed to get out of Dodge. So it was time to move on and start
Well,
my own
it
thing.
sounds like, yeah, it sounds like while you were slowly dying in a cubicle, you picked up a lot of really like useful
Oh,
skills,
100%.
Trade off is good.
Yeah.
100%.
I
Yeah.
mean, the
Really great
list of
knowledge.
qualifications just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not every financial advisory type role is super exciting. But I mean, I would probably guess that a lot of what you learned in that role, you've probably applied in other areas of your business, just like you were describing, right?
Right.
It's kind of that consultative approach to your sales process now, where it's like, hey, like let's have a conversation. I want to know what's important to you. Let me figure out how I can best serve you. And it goes all
Right.
the way back to when you were first selling door-to-door accounts, right? When you're like, hey, I want you to be my best friend when I leave your door, right? It's
That's
not
right.
just about making money for me. It's about developing that relationship, which is really cool.
Wait,
So
oh yeah, so let me just
yeah,
jump in here. So I remember that I had a moment my very first summer selling pest control where it was like this flip switched. Oh, wait,
switch flipped.
there you go. Scratch that, reverse it. Where
Kick.
I Yeah, kickflip. Yeah, I had this 360 pop shove it. So I had this moment, right, where I was trying to sign up this lady. She was standing on the sidewalk and she said, well, I got to talk to my husband. And I didn't know how to sell pests. I was like brand new. And then the training meetings are like, yeah, close the sale, close the sale, close the sale. And so I was like, okay, sweet. So what time works? I'm like trying out all these closes that I'd practice, and she's like I said, I have to talk to my husband. And I think I pushed one more time and she flipped, and she, kind of bawled me out right there on the sidewalk.
Yep.
And it was this moment where I just promised to myself, I'm not ever going to do that again.
Mm.
And from then on, it was like, I had integrity in my sales. Did you have a moment like that turned you into a salesman with integrity, or do you feel like that's just kind of who you are inside?
I mean, Eagle Scout, right? No. There's a few moments. I think my first day on the doors, I got chased off somebody's doorstep with a gun, and
Nice. Okay.
that was pretty wild. Um, but I think it's more just my personality of I want to take care of my people. Like if it's me vouching for something and putting my neck out there, that it's going to be a quality product. And something that I've learned is trying to go into my own business development was when I first started the company, it was like, this is what I was told to spray or apply, but why are we doing it? Why are we applying it?
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so I think that,
Yeah.
I always trusted my manager, like when I was a door to door sales guy, like, yeah, he knows what he's talking about. And like, yeah, we'll guarantee no webs on the home because we're using a quality product. And I trusted that. It's just really nice to see the science behind the products. When you promise something to a customer that, the microencapsulation is going to last for 90 days in the humidity of South Carolina, and then you get the opportunity to go back with your technician maybe or to that area, or as a GM, I got to go back and actually see the results of the product. Like, oh wow, like the science, this stuff really works. Customers are happy. There's
Mhm.
no bugs on the house. So
Yeah.
that really helped me
I think it's
develop, the integrity.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
mean, and every salesman, I think maybe on the planet, I hope all the good salesmen on the planet want to be able to be confident in the product that they're selling,
Oh,
right?
totally. Yeah.
And some of that confidence comes with, for us, like the science, like you're talking about. I remember there was a long time when I was managing inside sales teams, and whenever a customer would give me a question about a product, that I couldn't answer, I'm like, do I got to write this one down, right?
Yeah.
And then in between calls, it's Google and a bunch of other stuff,
Yep.
and training manuals, looking up what bifenthrin is and pyrethroids and product degradation and all these other things, and having actual like trained salespeople. One of the unique things that we did, and another pest control company that I was working at, is our inside salespeople were licensed as technicians.
Mm,
So they actually
Smart.
had a structural general pest license,
dude.
so they could do termite treatments if they really wanted to,
Yeah.
but they never did, obviously.
Yeah.
But we got them licensed, and we actually gave them a bonus to be licensed, because of the confidence level, and because it allowed them to talk to customers in a way where if a customer had a question or a concern, they could talk to that, and even more when they were creating service plans, right? Like outlining the special instructions for technicians. It wasn't just blowing smoke, right? Like what they were writing down was something that a technician would actually do because they were
Right.
licensed.
Actual technical.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So,
Yeah.
for you, and I want to make sure we save some time here to talk about you getting your ACE, because that's an awesome,
Yeah.
awesome thing. But you spent some time as a financial advisor. At what day did you realize, okay, my soul is leaving my body in
Yeah.
this cubicle, 9 to 5?
When did you finally kick the cubicle bucket?
Yes.
Proverbially.
I think it was after COVID, and basically just realizing that even though it was my family's business, they didn't, unless you were to follow in their footsteps of getting the financial certifications, there really wasn't a place for me to grow in the
Mm.
company. Like I asked, would an MBA be
Mm.
beneficial to the company, like an operations mindset? And I was like, no. So from that point, I kind of, I really heavily researched commissioning as an officer in the Air Force, to try to, get that,
Oh.
I don't know, level of leadership to go start my own thing, or like the confidence to maybe go start my own thing. But the whole, so I speak Russian. I served a LDS mission for 2 years in Russia. And so like the
Mm-hmm.
Russia-Ukraine conflict broke out, and I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like I'd be like front lines, intelligence or something if I actually
Right.
went down that road. And we just had our third kid, and my wife was like, no, thanks. You're not going to do that. So I kind of had to
Sometimes our
pivot.
wives
And
just have such a great way of like steering us in the right direction, don't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
yeah, just pat me on the back. That's cute, sweetheart. No, you're going to do something else.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
anyways, but yeah, that's kind of like the journey of like my soul awakening, and leaving the cubicle. And we moved to Utah at the end of 22, and there's just a really strong entrepreneurial spirit here in Utah. One of my best
Mhm.
friends from college, who I worked with at the time, or worked with in college, he's just kind of looking at me. He's like, I'm kind of mad at you for not having started something and taken my money yet. He's like, I'm here to support you. And he's like, I'm kind of mad you haven't taken my money yet. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And he was a real strong
Dude, that's
driving
awesome.
force into giving me the confidence to start my own thing.
Wow, dude, that's awesome. It's nice to have friends like that,
Oh
dude.
man, isn't it though? Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
agree. I mean, Utah definitely does have a strong entrepreneurial vibe.
Totally.
That is true.
Yes. Well, like we are talking about in our
Sometimes a
last
little
episode,
overbearing.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little too
Well,
much.
the MLM community is so strong there. And I once heard someone say, well, Jake, you know what MLM stands for? And I was like, yeah, multi-level marketing. And he goes, no, it stands for Mormons losing money. And I just thought, oh man, that's
funny.
pretty accurate. But yeah, we were talking in our last episode about America and
Mhm.
freedom and immigrants, and how the vast majority of entrepreneurs in America are immigrants. I mean, think about the population of Utah. think about all of the immigrants that have come into the Salt Lake Valley over the past 100 years. That's a lot of immigration. That's a lot of immigrants
That is
coming into Utah. And then also, I think that a lot of people in Utah just have this kind of manifest destiny spirit, the zeal for it. And so that's awesome. I mean, so you're in the land of entrepreneurs. Do you feel like that's a thumbs up or a thumbs down for you in growing your business? Is there too
I
much competition or what?
definitely think that's a thumbs up, just because, I mean, yes, are there a lot of other pest control companies here? A lot of other solo operators? Yeah, there's a lot. But it's a great way to also network, and it's like a fraternity of other PCOs helping me out. When I am having a rough day, I'll call one of my friends who owns a company more closer to the Salt Lake area and be like, "Hey, man, talk me off the ledge here. What did you do when you were having a hard day starting your business?" He's like, "Oh, I just woke up and went to work." It's like, "Oh, okay, thanks for the wise,
Right.
sage wisdom, sir." And
safe.
but it's sometimes you just need to hear somebody, or talk to somebody who understands the struggles of business startup, business ownership, even the same business. Collaborate, and see how you can share ideas. Because ultimately, like the town that I live in, there's 62,000 people. I don't need 62,000 customers to be successful, but so there's plenty of room to for all of us to work together and support each other. And that's just one little town here in Utah, and the neighboring town that I serve is booming, and they're at like 65,000 people. So there's enough to go around.
There's enough slices of pie for everybody, right?
Yep. We've talked about this lots of times, and I feel like I've beat this horse to death. But I'm just so glad that that's what the industry is. It's guys like, it used to be that like you didn't tell anybody your pest control operational secrets, even if they operate in another state.
Yep.
It's like that guy could move here and take over.
Yeah, it's like you're hoarding your secret 31 secret spices.
Right? You're like, don't tell them that we give free reservices.
Right.
It's so silly now. And now there are buddies that own pest control companies in markets right next to each other.
Yeah.
Like we had a podcast episode where there was a guest, two guests back to back, and they literally backed up against each other in markets. And so they would share leads back and forth when they got calls, in each other's market.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is
awesome.
Wild, man. Like so crazy. But
yeah.
and I love that in here you are planning on getting your A certification, which is another thing that I think it's just helping elevate the industry as a whole, right? ACE is helping other guys get their ACE. I think is huge. Do you have pest control buddies that are ACEs already?
So I don't have any personally, but I know you guys have talked about the Viserys reps and how influential they can be. But the local Viserys office here in Salt Lake City has 2 ACEs on their staff, and in chatting with them, they basically said that there's only 12 ACEs in the entire state of Utah. And so I look at that, I'm like, holy cow! There's only 12 ACEs in Utah, and there's hundreds of pest control companies. So I'm like, okay, I want to be one of those elite tier pest control operators that is going to join that higher service level, And so that's where they inspired me to, start looking into the ACE. And what was that?
I said lucky 13.
Yeah.
You'll be lucky 13. If there's only 11.
Yeah. So what was crazy is just that there's 12 ACEs in Utah. 2 of them are Viserys reps, so only 10 pest control operators have it,
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where when I first started my company, looking at my previous experience in the industry was I was told what to do. I didn't know why we were spraying, demand. What was the chemical makeup of demand, versus suspend polyzone or whatever, right? Like, they're both great products, but why would you choose one over the other? Well, it's kind of personal preference, really. They do the same thing. But anyways, I wanted to know, why we're using the products, diving deeper into the concept of IPM, and just being the best I can, and helping save the environment, even though we're killing bugs all day for a living. It's how can we do that in a safe way and preserve our communities, and then
Yeah,
ultimately
dude.
as
Well,
I become or as I grow into business leader and having technicians, I want to be the guy who can really teach those technicians the proper methods of treatment and have them go through the is it PPMA's the Quality Pro program that they
Oh yeah,
offer.
Quality Pro. Yep.
yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm like itching to get onboarded with them, but it's like you have to be in business for 2 years, and I'm not even done with my first year yet. So
Yeah. Stay tuned. Stay tuned with for an upcoming episode with Jim Fredericks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that with Jim Fredericks, we're going to be covering the PPMA Quality Pro approach with
Yep.
him. That's probably going to be a topic of conversation there.
Oh yeah. Well, and I remember when me and Jake went and got our aces 2019.
Yeah, this is year 5.
This is year 5.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
and when we went in, first of all, I mean, this by now, but the study material and everything that you have to do, like the prep work to go into it, is quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously you have all these prerequisites, right? You have to have the equivalent experience in licensing for 60 months. It's 5 years,
5
right?
years, yeah.
You have to have letters of recommendation, and you have to go through the application process, and then you have to study for the test.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the time it was 150 questions. I think it still is 150 questions, maybe.
Yeah.
But we both got our ace back in 2019, and exactly what you're saying, it's allowed us a much more broad approach to what you think of when you first get into door to door, first get into pest control. You're like, hey, dude, whatever. These pesticides kill these bugs. It doesn't have to be rocket science, right? But
I'm just going to use whatever my whatever my Univar rep tells me. To use.
And it's just
Right.
it's so much more critical thinking is involved in all the different processes, right? Choosing products,
Mm-hmm.
based on how effective they are, how long lasting they are,
Mm-hmm.
product sensitivities, the way that
Time of
different
year.
products mix, time of year, all these different things that come into it. But just the IPM side of it, right? Like whether or not to use certain, like a product at all, right? We're talking about mechanical control, biological control,
Mm-hmm.
all these other methods that as a pest control professional, you don't really think about until you start diving into that realm, and now they have, Quality Pro is obviously another thing that as a business you can get, but now they have what, PHE,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, public health entomology,
Yeah. Yep.
which is a little bit different than the ACE, but it's.
Do you get a patch?
I hope you get a patch.
I hope you get a patch.
That's all we really want, is just a patch,
I
right?
did it for the patch.
But anyway, what's your journey been like? Where are you at in the ACE journey? Have you started studying yet? Have you done the application?
yeah, so I was honestly expecting to have more time in the winter to dive into that. I mean, I got my letters of recommendation, and started going down the path of reading the study material. I have a connection with somebody at Pitbull Pest Control out of Vegas who he's super awesome guy. Helped me, with some study material. He sits on the board of education for some of these other boards like
Nice.
the PHE. So he was really encouraging in that regard. And so I've started looking at the study material, but I wear many hats as a solo operator. So
Yeah.
taking the sales calls, going out and doing the service, being in the truck all day long, then having 3 little kids at home, it's sometimes hard to crack the books. But
Yep.
Yeah, our service manager is in the process of trying to get his ace. He has the time and everything else. And it was the same thing over this winter. It was like, he's like, okay, like I'm gonna set aside this time to study real quick, and we're like, this is not a real quick study thing.
Yeah.
Like for an extended period of time, you must build in the study time for a while, right? And it just
100%.
like it does it caught up to him. And I still don't think he's actually had time to take
I
his
don't think he's had
test.
time. He wanted to borrow my note cards because
Mhm.
I made note cards when I was studying, and I was like, you can borrow my note cards, but the reason why the note cards helped me is because I was writing them. You know,
True.
like there's a pen to hand to brain
Yeah, that
connection.
Yes.
tactile learning style.
Yeah, totally. And I don't know if everybody's like that, but knowing our service manager, I figured that that's probably going to be a big thing for him. And you know, the cool thing is, and I was thinking about this right before we started our podcast. We had our management meeting with our office managers and service manager, and they were talking about our FTL. So we have our I mean, some companies would probably call them assistant managers. We don't call them assistant managers. We just call them fire team leaders or FTLs. And we're talking about licensing that the guys are getting, and one of our FTLs just took the SPI, the structural pest inspector exam,
Mhm.
and he scored a 96 on the SPI exam. And that SPI exam is no joke, dude.
Yeah.
It's like it's 100-question test, and then they have all these samples on tables lined up in the front of the room, and you have
Mhm.
to go up and you have to identify, the WDOs based on the frass and the holes and the yada yada yada, right? So to score a 96 on that test, that's pretty bomb,
That's wild.
And
That's
so I'm sitting
impressive.
there and I'm thinking, this is for me a new definition of success. Like this is a new level of
Mhm.
success. It's hard to define success. Like when do you reach success? It's kind of an elusive term. But I was sitting there, I was thinking, we have reached a level of success where our people, our technicians and our service manager and our fire team leaders, where we can go and we can learn from them,
Mhm.
where they probably know more about something than we do. And how cool is that to have people on your team that can replace you in some of the aspects of the job. And I just think that's really cool. And so to see other guys out there, like just really putting their axe to the grindstone, like what you're doing, Eric, where, you've got all this skill, all this training, all this experience in every aspect of the pest control world. You've got a degree. You worked for financial planners. You're working on getting your ACE. I mean, that kind of axe to the grindstone mentality and knowledge is exactly what, when you put that back out into the pest control community, that's what grows our industry.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
man, I got to hand it to you, Eric. I think that what you're doing is truly awesome. And I think that as you share out with inside of your circle, that is going to create a ripple effect that goes out. And the more people that put out that ripple effect, the better our industry becomes in general. And I think the better relationships and connections we all build with each other. Because like you said at the beginning, it's networking. It's all about It's
Mhm.
not about what sometimes about who but in your case, if and people, then how much more can you put out into the world? I think it's awesome.
Well, you appreciate that. I also think back, I think it was when you interviewed Rife Environmental, being humble
Mhm.
enough
Oh
to
yeah,
know what you
Kevin.
don't know, right? I think you mentioned
Yep.
that, and just that obviously that resonates with me, and just being humble and always in a learning mindset to network with people who know more than you, and be humble enough to learn, at every opportunity you can.
Yep. Well,
Totally.
and you guys are in your second year, right? A business.
End of the first
Yeah.
year, almost to our first year
Oh,
anniversary.
okay.
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
All right.
Well,
July,
happy early anniversary, you guys.
You said
thank you.
July.
July 2nd was the first day we picked up a flow zone and started spraying people's houses.
Here, I love everybody knows the first day. What time was it? Was it afternoon or morning?
It was probably around 11:45 a.m. Got to the got to
See,
my
I know
got
that.
to my friend's house, got to my friend's house, and I was like trying to
man.
go over the service with him, and I was like fumbling through the words. I was like, "Oh man, it's bullets and sweat running down my forehead." Like, this is what we're gonna
Yep.
do for you. I'm like, man, I was a salesman for years, and I can't even talk to my friend about my own service. Like, it's fun to
Right.
see how much we've grown.
Dude, I
Yeah.
love how all of our wives are never gonna forget like the day and the time and the experience of all of our babies being born,
Yeah. How much
And
they weighed, how
yeah,
long they
and here
were.
we are, and it's like, I picked up the Typhoon 2.5, and it was had 4 gallons of product in it. It was
It
beautiful.
was so beautiful.
Had my duster
Yeah.
in my hand.
Yep.
So
And I
good.
pumped the B&G for the first time, and the gasket on the bottom of the handle was intact, and the air actually went into the canister, Yeah.
Oh, dude.
So just question, is your wife involved in the business at all,
She
or
is.
is it
She
just Erik?
is. No, she's studying for her pest control applicator's license right now, because
Oh,
she wants
dude,
to.
that's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
So it's just me and her. She runs all of like her social media, and which she's pretty funny. So you should give her a follow, or us a follow, I guess. And
Okay.
anyways, but she does like the phones, appointment routing, um, and just really trying to help me out where she can. She schedules a nanny for 12 hours a week, and she busts out what she can in that time frame, and then we keep moving forward.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I love it. That brings back so many memories. When we first started, I told my wife, no, you just take care of the kids, and I'm going to do everything. I'm going to sell service. I'm going to answer the phones. I'm going to do the routing and all that, yada, yada, yada. And after about, I don't know, 2 days, my wife was like, let me take over all this other stuff. You just go do the selling and the servicing. And we never looked back,
Yeah.
I've admitted this, full disclosure, dude, I don't even know how pest route works.
It's changed so many
It
times.
has changed so many
since then.
times. Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show that to be a pest control company owner, you don't need to know how to do your own taxes.
Yep.
And you don't necessarily need to know how to do a route or how pest route works.
You just put the right people in place to help you out.
Yeah, I didn't even say it right. Pest route. Like Erik's like, psst, it's pest routes.
This is a non-sponsored ad.
Yeah.
Pest routes and tech
Oh,
routes.
yeah. That's right.
Yep. The I know we're short on time, which is tough because I just want to keep picking your brain on all sorts of stuff. But I have to ask before we get you out of here,
Sure.
where's the journey looking for this beginning of year 2 for you guys? I mean, July's coming up. What has been on the front of your guys' mind as far as growth for your company?
Oh man, that's probably the question every business owner is like stressed about, keeps them up at night. We doubled our production in May of last month. Our CPA gave us a pat on the back and said, "Keep it up."
Yes.
We're about to take our first paycheck, which is going to be huge for us. We were blessed to have some savings set aside from my last job to live on in the meantime. So we're going to take our first paycheck, which is huge, and we're hoping to keep doubling in size. Lawn care has been a huge addition of easy money to the business. We just met with somebody this morning to onboard a commercial warm lead sales funnel, to help us get more commercial accounts.
Nice.
So we're always kind of trying to think, where can we do more, because every 2 weeks it's like the roller coaster of business ownership. We're doing great. We're not doing enough, and so it's like, how can we level the playing field and just keep the upward trajectory of growth and happiness and joy?
Yeah,
dude,
that's great.
I love it, man. Well,
Yeah.
And obviously now's a great time, dude. Technology, obviously like all this stuff with being able to get commercial leads and residential leads, and about Google and SEO and everything else. It's a great time to be a pest control business owner.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And we're gonna have to have you back on the show, pick your brain a little bit. Would love to do kind of a end of season, or even like coming up on year 2. I mean, you're at the very beginnings, right? The beginnings of your empire. It's gonna be huge, man.
Yep. No pressure. You got to do something big this next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, good luck with the ace. I'm sure you're going to kill it. And now you have 2 other friends. You can say that have aces,
Yep.
right?
Perfect.
An ace in the hole.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
Or 2.
2 aces in the hole.
Yeah.
Ace up the sleeve.
Uh-oh. That sounds illicit somehow.
No, it's aces in the holes sounds illicit.
Right. That's true. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
there
true.
you go.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I
Eric,
think
it's
ace
been
hole
awesome.
would just be even
Oh, there
worse.
you go. Yeah, I'll take that one. That'll be good. We're not going to edit any of this out too.
No,
So this is going to be
No,
the
leave it.
unadulterated. Yeah, there you go. It's in there. So Eric, you're awesome, man. We're going to have you back again. For everybody else that's listening, if you have a coworker or a manager or an owner who could benefit from listening to this episode, the best way to say thank you to us is to share this episode with them. If you haven't joined the Facebook group yet, go find the group and join. It's Bug Bucks Plus. Lots of information and great connections there. If you have a topic you want discussed on the show, drop it in the group. As always, this episode is brought to you by Bug Bucks Plus, the #1 training and education platform designed to help you build and scale your pest control company. Visit bugbucksplus.com to sign up and start building today. Thanks again for listening in, and until next time, keep building those pest control companies.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Don't forget to subscribe.
You're listening to the Bug Bucks Podcast, hosted by Eric Bassett and Jake Klaus.